call the North Smithfield School Committee meeting of December 14, 2021 to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Lombardi.
Present.
Mrs. Mayo. Here. Mrs. Vada. Here. Mr. Cano.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here. We have a quorum. Let's move on to Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak under either public comment or community comment, can you raise your hand so we can gauge how many people are going to speak tonight?
I have it running on this screen over here and I'm taking a look.
Okay. And if anybody wants to sign up, the sign-up sheet is over there. There won't be an opportunity to sign up afterwards. So if you think you want to speak, please sign up.
I don't have anybody on Zoom.
Okay. Can Superintendent, would you mind grabbing the list over there? Yep. So let's start by saying under public comment or community comment, we welcome all of your comments. We ask that you keep it professional. We ask that there be no personal attacks. We ask that you be brief. During open session, we do not respond, we just listen. And please let us know your issues with the school department. Let me start also by saying, I think I was a little quick on the 2 minutes. I don't believe was enough last meeting, and I apologize for that. That was my call. I will expand that to what I'll say is 4 minutes. I'll let you know when the time of 4 minutes comes up. I'll give you another 30 seconds, so it'll be 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And please finish up. I'll hit the gavel at 4.5 minutes, if that's fair. You know, I'm trying to be fair. We do have a long meeting tonight, so so that's over half an hour of time. So I'll start off with Joseph Savigny.
Good evening. Well, I'm glad to see that you kind of took responsibility for the 2 minutes last month. Excuse me. I would like to know how these times come about for these community speaking sections. Is it 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes? It seems to be all over the map. I'd like to see a policy that says, listen, we need to have, everybody has 5 minutes. That way there, if I have an issue, I can bring it to you and know what my time frame is and not find out when I walk through the door based on, well, tonight we feel like it's 2 minutes, or next week we feel like it's 4 minutes. So to me, that just doesn't make sense. And
so I'm going to stop the clock, Mr. Savigny. Can I just, you mind if I just respond to
Okay.
that? Well, generally what we allow is 15 minutes of public session, of community comment and public comments. We then divide it by the number of people who are going to speak, which again would be probably about 2 minutes. I know that was too quick, so I went to 4, and then I'll let people go 30 seconds beyond that. So,
but I also thought that at the last meeting, actually having parents coming up here and speak, and the school committee actually shutting them down and not letting them speak, and then actually getting up and walking out of a meeting, you guys should all be ashamed of yourself for the way you acted. You work for us. You're here to listen to what we have to say. Sometimes you're not going to like it, but that's your job. Now, I came before you at the last meeting with a resolution and asked for it to be put on tonight's agenda. It was nicely typed out. It was handed to every one of you. Not one of you had the decency to put it on tonight's agenda. So I guess next month, I'm going to ask for it to be put on the agenda again. I mean, it's not hard. I asked for you guys to come out and condemn Ryask for what they did by calling us domestic terrorists. And not one of you can stand up tonight and tell me that you agree with me or disagree with me. So where does my school committee stand in the public's eye when you can't tell me if you consider me a domestic terrorist for standing up here in front of you? So I've got, I don't know what I have left for time, but I'm going to yield whatever time I have left to whoever else speaking after me may need it. Thank you.
Okay, Deb San Francisco.
Good evening, members of the school committee and Superintendent St. Jean. My name is Deborah John Francesco, and I live on Greenville Road in North Smithfield. Mr. St. Jean, I am a mother of a 7th grade student who was chosen to participate in the recent survey, which has gathered much interest and scrutiny. While perhaps the state of Rhode Island and others in the community think it's okay to ask my son if he has ever had sexual intercourse, if he has ever tried to kill himself, or what others in the school think he identifies as sexually, I have a big problem with you asking my child these questions. The bigger problem I have is the fact that I was not made aware of my son participating in this survey before he did. I should have seen these questions before he took it. The way I would have prepared to address any questions he might have, how do you know a student isn't suicidal? And perhaps that very question would have triggered them. I read the article last week in NRI Now, where you acknowledge the mistakes were made. I, along with many others in town, appreciate you owning up to the mistake, and we look forward to this never happening again. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. You set a great example for our kids by just saying, hey, you screwed up here and it won't happen again. Thank you. We need to move forward and take you for your word. What the town of North Smithfield can't move forward from is the fact that one of our school committee members, Pegvada, has an inherent and severe conflict of interest with her full-time career at the Rhode Island Department of Education and her role on this school committee. Pegvada is employed by the Department of Education and is in charge of the statewide program within RIDE called SurveyWorks. Pegvada is responsible for survey creation, distribution, and data collection of student surveys across all school districts throughout the state. The town of North Smithfield doesn't know how you are compensated, if you receive a bonus, or how your employer defines your success as it relates to the SurveyWorks program. We don't know what influence you have in our district to basically do your job within our school walls. According to school committee agendas and meetings dating back to 2016, there have been no discussions or approvals for surveys put forth to the school committee prior to being sent out to our children. That, in fact, is policy and procedure outlined in the district handbook. We all know our children have completed surveys. What we don't know is what questions our children have seen on these surveys that have been pushed out. This is a major conflict of interest. Also, a conflict of interest. On August 18th, RIDE put forth a statement that they would not approve any district school reopening plans that did not have a district-wide mask mandate. Simply said, if the North Smithfield School Committee didn't approve a mask mandate, Mr. St. Jean's plans would not be approved to open our schools. On that very same day, Pegvada walked in that door with her mind made up prior to listening to any of her constituents and voted for a mask mandate. Regardless of how anyone feels about a mask mandate or not, how do you get to extend the reach and wishes of your employer through your role on the school committee? What would have happened to you at RIDE had you voted the other way? I think this is a major conflict of interest along with 150 residents. I will pass out to all of you a letter signed by 150 town residents who also feel the same way. A formal complaint has been filed with the State Ethics Board. An access to public records request has been made directly with RIDE, requesting all correspondence from Pegvada to the North Smithfield School Department Administration and staff, including emails, phone calls, and text messages. By a show of hands, how many people in this room tonight think there is a major conflict of interest with Pegvada being employed by RIDE and her sitting on the North Smithfield School Committee? We demand your resignation from the school committee.
Deb, you're at 4 minutes.
Hmm?
You're at 4 minutes.
Okay. I need a little bit more. Ms. Vada, I am sure you're a wonderful person. However, our children need local committee members who are independent thinkers and who truly act in the best interest of our children. We don't need or want agents of the state acting in a dual capacity on our own school committee. Remember, these are our children, the parents of North Smithfield. They are not wards of the state. You demonstrated poor judgment and have an inherent conflict of interest and must resign immediately. Thank you for your time.
Ariana Ramos?
Good evening. Ariana Ramos, 40 Green Street. I have one child in high school. At the previous meeting, I asked the school committee to address the 1015 email from our Rhode Island Association of School Committees Executive Director, Tim Duffy, advising school committees in Rhode Island that the RIASC will contact our U.S. Attorney as well as the FBI and coordinate with them on what, if any, steps we need to take to report parents speaking out in school committee meetings. Many members of our community have expressed deep concern over this overt effort to silence and intimidate parents from speaking publicly. Many states have rightfully now withdrawn taxpayer-funded membership dues to the National School Board Association as a result of this action and protest. Many people of this town voiced their concern both to the committee and the town council when the school committee remained silent. Town Councilor Stephen Corriveau responded in support of his constituents and proposed a resolution be issued to the school committee recommending they address this matter. In response to this proposition, an offensive, deeply disturbing, and inappropriate article was issued in the Valley Breeze by Mr. Jones, not only slandering our Councilor Corriveau and condemning the proposal, but also accusing parents in the community of trying to, quote, cudgel the committee into ignoring the science and safety of our students, end quote. I will come back to that in a moment. In addition, in the last meeting, Mr. Jones interrupted me during public comment when bringing this to light. Those actions can only be construed as evidence that at least one member of this committee does wish to silence their constituents in this community. If this was not the intent, I believe a public apology is warranted to the people of this town and to Councilor Corriveau by Mr. Jones. In the last meeting, the committee was asked to add this issue of withdrawing the RIASC dues in response to Tim Duffy's email to the agenda in order to demonstrate transparency and support civil discourse. The committee was given a copy of the proposed resolution at the last meeting and has now had 30 additional days to review. I do not see it on the agenda tonight. And I, as a taxpayer of this town for 17 years and a parent of 6 brilliant and wonderful people, many of which who grew up in this school system, demand this be added to the January agenda. Now for an equally important update every person in this room and in the state should be aware of. Going back to the comment about parents ignoring science and the safety of our students, I understand that the decision of masking our children in schools doesn't currently sit with the school committees, but it will in the future. Therefore, it is imperative that you are aware of the findings now proven in the court of law in Rhode Island. Last month, the Rhode Island Superior Court ruled on the issue of irreparable harm, a rebuke of the RIDOH's position that masking children for up to 8 hours per day causes them no harm. Coalition Radio Network posted a recorded testimony on YouTube of these proceedings. This is from the judge's ruling. It was found that Mr. McDonald relied upon studies that were not peer-reviewed or not randomized controlled studies when recommending the public school mask mandate. Mr. McDonald also had to revise his prior testimony around pediatric deaths in Rhode Island from 3 to 0. 0 COVID-caused deaths in Rhode Island. Dr. McDonald admitted he had not done a cost-benefit analysis when considering masking. This court heard credible testimony from multiple plaintiffs that their children were suffering adverse effects from the requirement and that when they wear masks throughout the school day. These adverse effects include physical and emotional discomfort and interference with the children's ability to interact with teachers and peers. Court finds these children are suffering reasonably infers that children across the state are suffering with the mask mandate. Regardless of the uncertainty surrounding potential long-term medical problems resulting from mask wearing, this court finds that plaintiff's testimony regarding the ongoing impact of mask mandate on their children suffices to establish a finding of irreparable harm. It was my hope in August, the school committee and the state for that matter would have performed a cost-benefit due diligence in following the science and reviewing all available data before making a decision that has ultimately impacted the health and well-being of our children. I hope if and when the time comes, each of you will take this into consideration if you still sit in the seats you currently occupy. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, go on.
I don't really have a lot to say tonight. I don't have a long speech prepared. I sit here in solidarity with everybody in this room tonight. I'm going to express my concerns for what's going on. There's no bond more sacred than that of a child and a parent. And you all seem to be forgetting that we are the parents. You all seem to be forgetting that we're the ones that make the decisions. We put faith in all of you to make the right decisions for our children. That's not what's happening right now. There's a severe lack of communication between this board, in all 3 schools, in fact, for many different reasons, which will all come to light over the next few months. Tonight, we're here to talk for the surveys. And again, Mr. St. Jean, thank you for acknowledging that there was a mistake made. Hopefully you stand by that. But going forward, there needs to be accountability. There cannot be divisiveness in town. This is not a healthy aura of debate going on right now. We shouldn't be coming here in fear, and people shouldn't be afraid to speak at this point. Nobody on this board has said anything to support the parents in town. We used to be friends, family, community. Not one of you has stood up and said, we don't think you're domestic terrorists. Is that really where we're at this point? Is it? Because it seems to me you all want to blame us for being the divisive ones, when this guy right here is the most divisive one you have. He's sabotaging you all from within. So far tonight, we've learned that you pissed off a lot of moms in town, so good luck with that. We learned that someone working for the state is making inside decisions based on the state, not our own children in town, okay? And then we learned that another guy who happens to be sitting right there, Paul Jones, is writing articles condemning parents in town because we don't want to be called domestic terrorists. Is that where we're at, Paul? Is it? All right. No, because guess what? Something has to be made. How much time am I at?
You're at 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay, 2 more. If you think this is a springboard for your political career, which we all know it is, okay? We all know you're leaving. You're a coward. 8 months, you're gonna be gone. You think you're gonna use this time on this board to run for Brian Newberry's spot, I'll tell you right now, Paul, if you think you're going to run against Newberry, he will have more votes than any other state rep in the history of Rhode Island. So you can look me right in the eyes right now. I'm telling you, that's what will happen. We will all make sure that happens. We will work tirelessly. So don't even bother. Go back to what you're good at, okay? Go back to what you think you're good at, controlling children and fleecing the elderly. Good luck with that.
Mike Clifford.
We also have somebody from Zoom later on.
No,
okay.
Once we called it, we called it.
Okay.
I don't want to open it up to everyone.
The person was having a hard time raising her hand.
Okay.
So, okay.
I just want to address one thing. You said, Mr. Lombardi, that the committee would not respond to any comments made during good and welfare, but I just want to point out to the audience, that's not a requirement of the OMA law. They are free to respond if they choose to. This is a policy that they now have adopted. And the same goes for the town council. I take issue with both of those boards having that policy. It is not a violation of the OMA if there's a discussion and an exchange between the citizens and the board members. It's a convenient hide from the criticism routine, and answer at a later time with factitious information. So I'm addressing just my objection to the use of a passive consent permission slip, which as an educator and someone who was a test administrator in the middle school and the high school buildings up until 2010, I had never even heard of. And having been in that position and administered some of those surveys, had I been asked to use a passive consent form, I would have quit the position. It's the past two reasons. First of all, the passive consent form, there is no consent existing here. And if you take a basic business law course, you need to know that there's a meeting of the minds between the parties whenever you enter into any type of agreement. How can you possibly have a meeting of the minds when you've sent the permission slip home with an 11-year-old who 50% of them don't give it to the parent on the first day? They only give it to the parent when the guidance counselor or the test administrator calls and tracks it down if it requires a positive consent or a negative consent. This is the lazy man's test permission slip as far as I'm concerned. And there cannot be any parental consent involved here whatsoever. It'll never hold up in a court of law. Parent didn't even see the form. They don't even know the activities running. How the heck could they be expected to opt their child out? So that's the first point. Second point is, I don't believe you did any favor to the students or the parents by using this type of form. True, many of these surveys do discuss suicide, teen pregnancy, drug abuse, and sexual activities. If you're administering this survey to a child who happens to come from a home where some of this is a life experience that they've actually experienced, they might have a parent who is an alcoholic, or they might have a sibling or a cousin who was sexually molested. If you think that taking the survey isn't going to trigger some type of emotions within that child who's taking the survey and reading about this, you're very naive. The least you could do is inform the parent that that survey is being administered so they're prepared to deal with the child when the kid comes home from school. And if there's a change in his temperament or his emotions, they'll know, oh my God, they talked about this. That's why he's acting this way. Instead of having to guess why the kid is off the wall for 3 days or totally silent in his room for 2. So I think you're not doing anybody, that was a disservice, not a service, to take that method of permission slip. And I'm not willing to give the district as a whole a pass on using that form because it was provided by the Department of Health. It was a template form provided by the Department of Health. And I don't know of any district in the state that has to use that. I think you're free to make up your own and follow your own policies regarding surveys and use any form you want. So somebody made a very poor decision in saying, yeah, let's use this form. And again, I call it the lazy man form because you don't have to track down a thing. So I think that's unexcusable in my book. Regarding the high school survey, I take exception to the fact that you I was aghast when I read that and heard that for the first time. I actually didn't believe the person who was telling me that was being honest. I thought, no, they have to have misunderstood or something. What educator in their right mind in this day and age, after having had the inferior educational program provided to them due to the pandemic for the last year and a half or 2 years, would think that they could spare 4 hours of a kid's school classroom time to take a survey? Those surveys, anything voluntary at this point should be thrown to the side. You need to focus on the education. Those kids.
So you can finish it up, Mike?
Those students, what's that?
If you could finish it up, please.
Those students are not going to be at grade level this year and probably not next year. It's going to take a long time for them to make up the skills that they lost. So for anybody to use their discretion and say, oh, I think I'll let them sign up on their own without a parent knowing it, even though I have to send in an absentee note when I choose to keep my kid home, the administrators have made a decision that you can miss 4 hours of class. Did they miss their IEP services? Did they miss their direct special ed services they were supposed to be provided with that day? You have an obligation to make up that time if they did. And I want to know if the school department was paid for administering that particular survey. The students were paid, so I'd like to know, was the school department paid? Because as a test administrator in another district, I'm well aware that there's certain companies, book publishers and such, do pay the district and the high school and or the school itself into the principal's ice cream fund or whatever they call it in a different systems to administer the survey for their
Okay,
time.
let me, we'll get you an answer. I don't know if we can answer it
Am
right
I over
now.
my time?
Yes.
So, okay. Well, I just wanted one more thing, Jim.
Go ahead.
I'll take his minute that he didn't use. There's another reason here. I'm not a parent, so I don't have anything in it at this time. If I did, my kid would be out of the system if he had used that permission slip with him. However, I'm here as a taxpayer, and this does have impact on me as a taxpayer, because you have a mass exodus from the school system. You have a declining enrollment that you're trying to use. And every time you lose a student, you lose at least $8,000 in the core dollars from the base of the state aid. So if you lose and continue to lose students, with that kid goes an $8,000 reimbursement from the state. So my taxes are going to go up. You can't afford to alienate any parents at this time. You have to welcome every parent in and listen to their concerns and actually respond and start showing some respect. I heard several years ago that
Mike,
the
you should
parents
one
who-
more question. I don't mean to be
the
rude.
parents who left, who chose to take their students out of the school, those parents were questioned and surveyed, and there was like an exit interview. Right after that happened, I was called by 3 parents who said, absolutely not. I took my kid out, they never even asked why. So if we're not doing it yet, I think you need to start getting on the ball and start doing it. And
Mike, let me cut you off
That's it.
there.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, though. Thank you. Superintendent, Lisa, can you answer that question? Were we paid?
So the district itself was not paid. I would have to check with the school to see if they received anything.
It was $500.
$500. Okay. You understand, Mike, that it's on the agenda tonight as well. So we put it on the, I put it on the agenda. I understand that. All right, sorry about that. Let's see. Councilwoman Alves?
Hey, Miles, I just had a question with an update on the turf field. If you can't answer it now, maybe you could do it during your on number 5. If you can just give us an update as to when the town will be able to use the turf field again, because there's been many questions, and just so we can give them the correct information.
Absolutely, we'll get that either
Absolutely.
out to you today or
I'm going to mention, talk about the turf field when I do my report.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman, thank you. Councilwoman O'Hara.
Want to get you the
Okay.
mic.
Sir, do you want to adjust the camera? Sir?
Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm doing this one.
I'm addressing our town council, but the parents today. I never thought in my 75 years of life that I would see the state of the world, of the Republic, of the United States of America, our state, our town, and our schools. I've always been taught during my years in education that parents are the backbone of the best school system. And I'm going to tell you something you may not like. In all the years that I've been attending meetings, etc., this committee has done more in many ways. Are they always perfect? Absolutely not. But they fought for funds, for many things that the children needed to make sure the school itself has never been in such good shape. The cleanliness, it is not just the virus. Do I agree with everybody? Absolutely not. But that's what makes our country great. We have a constitution that gives everybody the right to voice their opinion. But we must not make it a personal attack. Would I like to at times? Have I been attacked? Absolutely. But I will fight for your right. And as I look around here, I have had many of your children. And I know one person here, the Carvel family. I just found out like they don't answer the phone anymore. The unkindness that they would give it. And that night at the council, we were going to say something, but when I saw it was out there, I remembered one thing. What happened to me? What he believes in is right. I knew this couple as parents being supportive. I've had one of their sons in school, and they were supportive. Did we always agree? Absolutely not. But we agreed to disagree. I think in the future, and I think you all will make sure parents must know what is going on. Hindsight is wonderful. But I want you to look at Jean Mayer, who's been around, well, Jean, I won't tell her how long it's been around, but, you know, and been involved in schools and everything. Mr. Cornell, I have your daughter, always involved with children. Kate, I have your daughter. And did we always agree? Absolutely not, but it's all, you know, being civil. Without civility, we will get nowhere. And these attacks that some people have written, if that's the only way you can have your name known, forget about it.
Only one person.
There's gonna be two in a minute, but that's my sense of humor. I'm so glad to see you here. Fight for what you believe in. In my family, we got the left, we got the right, and I'm in the middle. So we're gonna have Christmas, you don't talk about this, you don't talk about that. It's gonna be peace on earth for one day. But I will defend my son as well as my daughter's right. This is a wonderful town. come back, stand up for what you believe. It is your right. You are the parents. And at the same time, there's one thing that you say, you know, I pay your salary. Then you don't pay them enough for taking this. Between you and I, the time they put in is so extensive. Most of them, the heart they put in, their children misses them. Your children are school, the rent, the whole 9 yards. Mr. Connell, your kids are on their way. Mrs. Bud, your kids are on their way. Forget it, Jim. Your kids are gonna be around for a while. And your parents don't have any start. Please, you are greatness. You can make a difference. You have rights. You have rights, and if you don't stand up, but don't let it be a personal attack, that is wrong. I will be behind you, and most people that know me know I would fight for your rights. Did I like some of the things? And I didn't even get a cut on that check from my grandson. Now I'm angry. I knew nothing
Councilwoman.
about it. I thought it was a joke. To pay, I wonder how many parents even know they got those checks. Well,
Councilwoman,
I thank you. My
Thank
time
you.
is over, but please, we have to work in unity. That's the only way we can have success. And who are we here for? The children. And anything you can do to help them academically. We've got to keep our children in school, get them the extra help. And if you want in-school suspension, I'll volunteer my time.
thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, so I have nobody else on the list.
If I may,
Ms. Fodder, you have a question?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a statement.
Sure.
My name is Pegvada. I live at 440 Buxton Street. I work at the Rhode Island Department of Education. I've not hidden that fact. In fact, I ran on it. The Ethics Commission ruled that working at RIDE and being on the school committee posed no conflict in 2016. And the ruling was upheld as recently as May of this year. For the past 5 years, I have been the project manager for SurveyWorks. The survey was not administered the prior 2 years, but after requests from schools and districts, the survey was reinstated. It is the only opportunity all stakeholders, students, families, and educators have to tell schools what's working and what's not. They use the information to set goals and celebrate successes. Please don't confuse this survey with the other surveys that are being administered that you heard about tonight. Each year, this survey is modified based on feedback from students, families, and educators. It is a school improvement survey, nothing more, nothing less. It is the most rewarding work I do because I know it helps schools in a way that nothing else can. Simply, it gives everyone in the school community a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment?
Yes, I would actually like to comment on a couple of things that were said tonight, if that's okay.
Sure.
The first thing I would like to say is that as far as RIASC is concerned, and I know there have been issues out here tonight spoken to as to why we have not put it on the agenda. This is my personal opinion. Whether we agree or disagree with the position of RIASC, their actions have no bearing on the operation of North Smithfield school system. And the services that they provide us are well worth the dues that we pay. And there's value to what they do. I think that national politics need to be kept out of the town government, and it definitely should have no impact on what we feel is best for our school system. And from my perspective, that is why we have not put it on the agenda. The second thing I would like to speak to is, I don't know how we got to this point. I really, really don't. I would hope that you would realize that we are here to work with you for your children, and we welcome your input. We're not trying to silence you. We recognize your First Amendment rights to free speech, and we do not ever intend to offer you up as domestic terrorists. We're willing to listen. We might not always agree, and that is okay. All we're asking for is respectful dialogue. I will repeat again that national politics and the issues that divide this country should be kept out of town government and out of our schools, and definitely should have no impact on what is best for this school system. Excuse me, I have my
Come on.
right to free speech as well.
Let her speak,
Okay.
please.
I really would like to be able to concentrate on what we were elected to do. I think you come here expecting that everything you say is going to change our minds. I want you to know that I do come here oftentimes with my mind made up on issues on the agenda, but that's because I've done a lot of research and I've done a lot of thought, and I know what I think is best from my perspective, and that's why I'm here, to do what I think is best for your children. The third thing I would like to speak to is Mrs. Vada. She was absolutely right when she said that she made no secret of the fact that she worked for the Department of Education. I actually have here her campaign literature, and she says that she's currently employed as a research specialist at the Rhode Island Department of Education. It's no secret. I think that we benefit from having her as part of our school department team. We have a direct link to the Department of Education. We have firsthand knowledge and a go-to person to help us understand information that's coming from the Department of Education. The town has an engineer on the planning. I'm speaking.
Let her speak, please.
The town has an engineer on the planning board, an architect on the Hollowell Review Committee, and the school committee has a member who works with the Department of Ed. Her experience and knowledge are assets to the school department, and to accuse otherwise is ridiculous. She had no direct involvement with these surveys. And again, I will say that this nonsense prevents us from concentrating on what we are here to do, which is educate your children as best we can. Well, I'm not even, I have a comment to make when we talk about the survey. I'll tell you my perspective at that point in time.
I'm going to move that up on the agenda, so we'll discuss
Thank you.
it in public. Does anybody else want to comment? Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Superintendent,
She had asked earlier at the beginning, was having a hard time with the hand raising function. So I did not see that, but I did get a text message a while back asking for her to speak.
so it's Ms. O'Brien. Does anybody have any objection with allowing her to speak? Go ahead. She can. Ms. O'Brien?
You can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about the confusion earlier. I'd like to commend Mrs. Mayo just about talking about the First Amendment, because tomorrow is December 15th. And on December 15th, 1791, we ratified the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. So it's important for us to remember that this is really important in our democracy to be able to share our views. But I also just want to speak to the fact that the founders didn't choose necessarily to create a direct democracy, which means everything that I want, I don't get, right? Our founders believed that our elected officials would be like trustees of our democracy, and that's what the people we have in office are. And clearly, if people are unhappy, which many people seem to be, then we have the opportunity to vote people out and vote next people in. But I did want to vote other people in, but I did want to speak about a couple of issues that were brought up. My daughter is in grade 6. So she brought me home that form about the survey, and she showed it to me, and I looked at it, and I did some research, some due diligence like parents do, and I did feel uncomfortable. So I opted out of the survey because I just thought she was a little too young, and then that's what I did. I do think that the information that they're looking to collect has value. I mean, if there are 30% of our middle schoolers who are thinking about hurting themselves, that is like information that we should have, right? And no names are associated with it. So I'm not opposed to that necessarily. Maybe it could be opt in, right? And I think everybody might be, amenable to that. But I certainly don't think that Pegvada is involved in any way of data mining or getting this information or being an agent of the state. That's just my opinion, like other people who have spoken have opinions. And then I just wanted to address something that Michael Clifford said about the survey at the high school. And I will say that I'm a taxpayer, so I pay as much taxes as everybody else. And I do have a child in the district. And I am a teacher, which I think sometimes can provide me with some insights that maybe at home you don't have. I am a little offended that he thinks that we are not providing for the students in our district. And he alluded to the fact that maybe people were getting an inferior education. And I don't know, just the other day, I went on a marvelous community day of practice where I was given the wonderful opportunity of going throughout our district and observing teaching and learning through all the buildings. And it was amazing. And I don't say that because I'm a teacher. I say that as a parent. Like, I just felt so comfortable with what I know our kids are getting. So I think that there are things that people can disagree about, and that's fine. And I thought today was a pretty civil discussion, which I appreciate. But I think that we're not on opposite ends of everything. Everybody wants what's best for the students. And I think everybody's trying to work as hard as they possibly can. And my daughter has an IEP, and I think she's getting every service that she deserves, and teachers stay after school. And I have said this for many years, but I am not a public school student. The first time I was in public school was teaching, and I don't plan on sending my kids anywhere else. They will stay here. And I wanted to provide another voice from the community, because there were just a lot of kind of the same sentiments being shared, which is fine, but there is another side. So thank you for letting me have this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. We move on to, so that part of the agenda is closed. Unless there's an objection, I'd like to move. Temporarily, and I think became permanently, stop the questionnaires from going out. I know that it was raised to them that the school committee, and it was unbeknownst to me, but that the school committee is required to vote on all these and approve them. It was not voted on. The superintendent, to his credit, took responsibility for that publicly, and I appreciate that. Thank you. But now we have, how are we going forward with these? So do we want to discuss it?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I just want to, when I was looking at this policy, I noticed it refers to the state the Rhode Island Department of Education approved by North Smithfield. As Peg pointed out, survey work is just one survey. There are other surveys that come out, and like some of them come from the Department of Health. And I think this last one that caused a lot of issues was the Department of Health survey, not survey works.
So, if I'm looking at the right policy, it's referring specifically to recommended by the Department of Ed and, approved by us, by the North Smithfield Committee. I'm good with that part, but should we maybe have something more broader than just, would this cover a survey from another state agency specifically, well, Department of Health being one of them, or another agency, but again, I think that, I don't know who else would put a survey out, but again, the Department of Health has, and maybe another agency would, state agency would as well. So I just want to maybe have that, the language to broaden that. Include the Department of Ed, but maybe just say, and any other, some kind of broadening language.
Well, so
Jones?
yeah, so Mr. Chair, so what we're looking at here with student questionnaires as a policy with the highlighted section, is that going to be new language that we're recommending for first reading tonight? Okay.
I believe so, right?
Yes.
Superintendent?
Yeah, that's an addition to what was in our previous policy to sort of flesh it out and avoid.
Yeah. I mean, because,
Yeah.
Look, I think they should be direct consent. I think parents should be asked directly. I know well, I'm not going to belabor the point. So this is saying that we're moving away from passive consent and moving on to active.
So what this policy is to go above and beyond the requirements from the Department of Ed as far as sending information out to the parents and getting that consent. I personally, when it was brought up and the chair mentioned it, when it appeared that, yes, there was a disconnect in communication on this, I did stop the survey. And then we took a look at the policy. And again, I apologize. I should have had it on the agenda for the school committee to vet before administering it. But I do like some of the families' parents suggested a permission slip, yes, no, for things like this. I think that's fantastic. I think there's absolutely no problem, and we should be as clear as we can and make sure that there isn't a breakdown in communication, and so that the families know exactly what comes out on these things. Now, I should also tell you, we get a lot of requests for surveys that we turn down. I often feel that when I get contacted from the Department of Ed, hey, North Smithfield has been selected to participate in XYZ, I feel like we get the short end of the straw. Not for all of them, but yes, it does, especially the controversial ones like the youth risk behavior. So I'm happy to take any survey that comes down, whether it's asking for personal information or like the piece that was at the high school. That wasn't really a survey. That was an assessment in mathematics, reading, and science. There was a little survey component at the end of the assessment that asked students their perception of math, reading, and science instruction in schools. But again, I'd be happy to bring any of these things forward to the school committee to vet and exceed whatever the requirements are as far as getting a parental consent.
Yeah, I think yes and no is good. I mean, I remember when I was in school, I had to have it signed directly before I could participate in any survey or anything, and it always actually led to really good conversations between my parents and I. Yeah. So yeah, I think I would support that. Yes. No.
So what happens if it doesn't come back?
Then they don't take it.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think that comes down to, again, it's an opt-in or opt-out. In other words, if it's an opt-in and if nothing comes back, they're in. If it's an opt-out, yeah, nothing comes back. No, if I'm maybe confusing myself.
We got you.
No, it's opt-in.
Again, and I just want to, so I mean, I think maybe if we could incorporate perhaps, I don't think we have to get into all the details, maybe email. Some people might be more inclined to email, because I understand the gentleman earlier talked about notes in the backpack and not always seeing it. I still work in the summers with differently abled students and parents who are regularly checking the backpacks. Yes, that communication works. But if the parent doesn't usually check the backpack, and for a lot of the middle school kids, I'm guessing there's probably a lot who don't check it every day. Yeah, they might miss it. And that's all. That's my point. And I do want to reiterate the point that, again, survey works is a ride thing, but the laying form was the Department of Health survey, so we don't want to miss that from the policy because, again, that was a different. I checked it. It's a different survey. It was put by the Department of Health, and that's a totally different background initiative. I'm not saying they're not looking to the benefits of the students, but it's got a different focus.
And if I could just add, my preference for any of these surveys outside of having them vetted is that the district gets the data back. So for example, Survey Works, we get the data back. We can use it to help with programs. There's a number of things that we use that data for. The youth risk behavior, we don't get the data. All right, that goes to the Department of Health, and that informs policy and funds for student programs and such. So I think the other thing to look at is not only is it protecting the student's information, that it's getting that parent consent, but it's also the purpose and how that data would be used. And again, I was the tech director and data manager in Pawtucket, and I had to vet so many of these surveys and requests for information. And I did the same thing in Central Falls. And everybody wanted to work with Central Falls and survey the kids. And we would just keep saying no. And there are very few that we actually administer here in North Smithfield for a number of the reasons I just mentioned.
So Superintendent, I mean, technology-wise, could we do it paper, email, cell phone? I mean,
It could be multiple ways.
right, on the
example,
website.
Yeah. For example, later on tonight, I'm going to talk about the Test to Stay program. And for that, we need parent consent. And there will be a sign-up form. And if a parent signs up for Test to Stay, they're part of the program. If they don't sign up, they're not. But again, we will clearly communicate all of this information and what it entails.
Anybody have any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the student questionnaire policy.
So moved.
Motion be made and seconded. Any further questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Yes. Sure, absolutely. So we're just going to take a break for 5 minutes.
All right, and for those on the Zoom end of things, I'm just going to hit pause and turn the video and audio off while we're on break.
So we're back on the record. Let's move to the consent agenda. Item number 2. Does anybody have anything that they need pulled off the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Second it. Hold
Yeah.
on. So, one of superintendent.
If I could pull out number 5, the donations that we received from 2 companies, and publicly thank and let you know what we're going to be doing with this.
But rather than do that, why don't you just talk about it? I mean, if that's okay.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to bring Mr. Stanley up because he arranged for the donation. I'd like him to fill you in
Thank
on
you.
that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 6, acceptance of donations.
Just want to say that Christmas came early here for North Smithfield. As mentioned in the agenda, we received a very nice donation from our neighbors just north of us from Fidelity and Bryant University. These are very nice touch laptops and desktops, many of which were i7 processors with 16 gigs of RAM, which means they're very fast. These devices will most likely be put to good use in either our pre-engineering, computer science, or digital media pathways. There are a total of 65 devices donated in all. I would just like to take a moment to publicly thank Bryant University and Fidelity for this generous donation that will contribute to the academic success of our students. And I also just want to mention that we plan to continue to keep a healthy, ongoing business relationship with our neighbors, neighboring business and college neighbors. Thank you and have a lovely holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our donors.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Yeah, I would just take it right now.
So on the last policy that we just voted on, I just want to state for the record that I recused on that vote. Thank you.
And this is. Okay, it's noted for the record. And do you have the form? Okay, great. All right. So, Superintendent, are you given, oh, here it is, 3 superintendent's report. So Councilman Alves is here, and if you could maybe start off with that, if you're ready.
Sure.
Or
Yeah, so we're looking at, first of all, we want to open up the field soon. Right now it's closed because there was some final work being done. Plus, we're working on the policy for the ongoing management and maintenance of the field. And that includes scheduling and arranging for public access, as well as rentals, as well as our games. And so we're just working out some of the logistics of this. So we're not all tripping over each other to try to use this new beautiful facility. Yet at the same time, we want to expand the use, especially in rentals, where we can generate some funds to continue to update and eventually replace it in 10, 15 years. After what I hope is really good, vigorous use. So yes, we will be opening up the field shortly. We just need to get a few more pieces in place. I'm hoping come the next school committee meeting that we do have a use of facilities policy. We do have a turf field and track policy. Half of it's already been updated. I'm looking to update the rest of it. Plus, we're also looking at some consulting as far as people who to better manage this field, to be able to put schedules out there online. So people, before they come down to walk on the track, they can see that a game is scheduled there and know at 4 o'clock they can't use the track because there's a meet or the students are out there. But again, just to get these pieces in place so everybody can have access to the field and use it fully. All right, so that's that piece of the field. Yep, go ahead.
Councilwoman, do you have any questions?
Okay. The other piece of it, and I'm sorry I didn't have it all together, to actually put on an agenda item. So, but I want to share some of the information that we have in fact, I'm not even going to bring it up on the screen. 4 years ago, we went out for an RFP to add throwing, javelin, discus, and shot put to the field. And we got a price at that time. And again, this was 4 years ago of $160,000. we took those designs because there was a problem in co-opting the softball field to use for throwing. And so we took another look at the designs that were created then, which creates a discrete javelin and discus throw area between the high school and the middle school. It includes a net which will protect the cars in the parking lot from errant, projectiles. And it also puts a shot put throwing area behind the track, sort of right field of behind the right field of the baseball field. All right, so there's space for it. Now we took the company that did what I think is amazing work on the turf field and the track, had them give us an idea. Here's the design. It creates a discrete area for 2 throwing areas. What is the price? And the price they came back with was the hammer and discus cage plus pad is $96,000. All right. The shot put throwing area plus landing is $42,000. So the price they came back with, and this is what I said, I wanted to get a ballpark, is $138,000 to add these 2 areas, to put up that net, to protect the cars and not touch the girls' softball field. The other piece of this, and again, this is the company that did the work. I leave it to you how you want to handle it. They can incorporate this as a change order to the big project that they've just done, add it to that. I believe the original RFP has that provision in it. So they've come up, they came in under budget by $80,000. So with that money that was saved by coming in under budget for the turf and the track, we would be looking at contributing $58,000 to get that expansion of the throwing area.
And I recall that in a prior year, might be 3 years ago or a prior year, that we did vote to authorize $35,000. Now that might have lapsed. Lisa. So it's not, it's hopefully it's, it's not as big as we initially thought anyway. Because if you save the 80, we thought we were going to spend that. We thought we were going to spend the 35. We're pretty close, but that's a decision for this committee.
So again, this wasn't up here for a vote. I don't have the official, I think maybe you can vote on, things on my report. I would have preferred to have a discrete item under old business to follow through with, but I didn't have all the information in time to get it there.
So I think that you're gonna have to probably get us the final proposal.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then we can take a look at it.
Yep.
Is there, do they want to do it sooner rather than later, or it doesn't really matter?
They're willing to lock in on that price, for construction in the spring, but I can check to see what kind of time frame we have.
Okay.
And again, I don't want anybody to feel pressured,
No. Right.
but we have the ability to do this expansion and not touch the girls' softball field at a less of a price than what we originally received 4 years ago. And I think everyone's pretty aware that prices have continued to rise considerably. So this is a good price.
Great, thank you. We can get it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Chair, two questions.
Absolutely.
I just want to, you said there's no pressure in terms of time. Just wondering if would it be possible to, we're talking about something that we does for this season.
Could you move the mic over? Yep. Thank you.
Are we talking about something that could be done for this upcoming outdoor track season? Or is
We
that
would like to have it, the construction happening in the spring. That's the time frame that they gave us.
Right, so we don't know if we'll get in for this season or not.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, because the other thing I'm gonna say, is I always ask is, do we need to, is this one of those, we gotta bid it, or are we okay to the RFP that's out there?
And that is the choice, whether or not you can accept this as a change order for the track and the field as an extension of that, or if we step away and we do a full RFP, which would have to go out in January as well.
So just, I would get an opinion from the solicitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would rather go that direction if that's the direction you want to go, because it's easy. We know this company does quality work. They're pretty high end. And if we were getting much higher prices years ago, they probably can do it.
And that
Easily.
RFP we put out 4 years ago was 133 pages of specifications and qualifications, and the company said, yeah, they'll work off of that. But within already the contract that's been approved already, so.
No, I'm not saying that's not, but let's get the solicitor's opinion and we'll just, we know,
Absolutely.
no, we're not guessing.
Yep.
All right, anything else on the update, Superintendent?
Nope, that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4. Again, this is for informational purposes. Does anybody have any questions? We'll move on to item 5. Does anybody have any questions in regards to the fiscal year 22 or 23 operating/capital budgets? Hearing none. So just go back to, all right, so the appointments to the budget subcommittee. No, I have that somewhere. Was it Mr. Connell and myself on the budget subcommittee? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was on there, Chris was on, Christine was on there.
Did anybody else, does anybody want to be on there?
Sure.
Well, yeah, other, Mr. Connell and myself will be on there. On the negotiations. Yeah, if you want to go on negotiations as you did, does anybody else want to go on? I don't necessarily need to go on. I will if no one else wants. Jean, did you want to go on?
No, if you need someone on the support staff, I'll be happy to do it. But,
Okay. You want me to do it?
I'd rather have you do it.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I want to
do a
offer.
better job.
So it'll be Mr. Jones and myself. Moving on to the test to stay program through RIDE, Superintendent.
Yep. Let me just.
Can
Go ahead.
we arrange a meeting for the subcommittee first week of January?
Yeah, we can do that after the meeting.
Okay.
Or throw out a date if you have one.
Any day the first week, because the January monthly meeting will be presenting the proposal for the entire committee to vote on.
But then we wouldn't, so we would take it after that, right? The budget subcommittee.
Subcommittee will meet first, and they will bring their recommendations to the committee in the January monthly meeting.
Okay. So you'll have it prepared the first week?
We will have the books out to you next week.
Huh? Next week?
When you sleep, you got
So, well, I'm not gonna do Monday, 3rd.
December 25th.
But is the 10th too far in,
Sounds like it.
Lisa?
Well, the committee's meeting on the 18th, so we would have to get any revisions in that week and get the book prepared. So we could do it. It'll be tight, but we could do it.
All right. Mr. Connell, 5 o'clock work for you, or
What day, which
the
day?
the 10th,
What day is that?
Monday.
Monday?
Actually, it's not a. That's a bad time.
Time or day?
All right.
So what time?
5 to 7, I've got something, so either.
All right,
before or after.
Tuesday.
Sure.
5,
Sure.
the 11th, Lisa?
Sure.
Okay, so test to stay program superintendent?
Yeah, I'll give you an overview of this. And this is a program that the Department of Ed and Department of Health have put forward as a means to try to keep as many kids in school if they've become a close contact to somebody with COVID. So I have a letter explaining the program going out to the parents. I haven't sent it because I want to go through this with you folks first to see, give you the pros and cons about continuing with this. So test to stay, and this is the summary here. It's for unvaccinated students in pre-K through 6 who are identified as close contacts where exposure took place in school or on the bus. So right now, if the student's vaccinated and they were determined to be a close contact, they don't have to isolate or quarantine. An unvaccinated student who is determined to be a close contact has to quarantine. Now, the test to stay is to prevent the student from having to quarantine. So with the parent consent, the student can take a quick Binex test, which is just 5 swipes halfway up each nostril. It kind of tickles. It's easy to do. And if they come out negative and they're not showing any other symptoms, they can remain in the classroom. They don't have to go home to quarantine. So this is something, you know, our nurses and our teachers would like very much to do what we can to keep the students in the classroom. So, but a couple of caveats. Now, it only applies if you're a close contact of somebody in school. It doesn't apply if you're a close contact of somebody outside of school, all right, at a gymnastics, at a community league, a cousin, you know, at a birthday party. So it's for in school. And it also doesn't apply for students who come to school sick. So that's the other thing. So the test to stay, you take your little test, you're negative, you're healthy, you're not stuffy, you don't have diarrhea or a fever or anything like that, you can stay in school. If you're sick, you should be staying home. All right. It will come with, and it's only for students who are unvaccinated. So that's the consent we will be seeking. It will, if we do this, it will go out to all parents of students in PK to 6. If they're unvaccinated, again, we're not asking that status. They're willing, you know, they can just sign up for this. And if their child becomes a close contact and they've signed up for the test to stay, the kid does not have to go home to quarantine or isolate. They can stay in school as long as they remain healthy and they take that test in the morning. The testing period runs for about 7 days, after which, you know, it's regular. Now, some of the flip sides, okay? And this is some of the logistics that we need to work out. The test to stay also applies for the weekends. So if there's a school function on the weekend for the student to participate, they would have to have that test. Now, we don't have the facility to do the weekends. Where it might come in to play would be grade 6 who are doing some school athletics on the weekend, we'd have to have somebody in there. They were close contact, and they're in the test to stay. They would have to have a test before the event or the practice. Again, there's some very awkward logistics involved in this. The other thing too is that right now our nurses, not just North Smithfield, but statewide, has been a tremendous spike in positive cases, in close contacts, in contact tracing. Our nurses are flat out and they're on all day, they're on all night, they're through the weekends. So for us to implement this, we need to bring in other resources. And so I did have a meeting with the nurses, and I have a sense of the types of resources that they would need. We can use ESSER funds for this. So I need to get some final numbers in. All right, we need to have that conversation as far as especially support in the morning when the kids come in and they're test to stay. There's that 15-minute period that they're lined up, they're waiting or they're sitting. They get their swipe. The nurse has to record all of this or an assistant, and the results are in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, you're negative, go to class. All right, but that's something every morning. So the thing is, though, I don't know how many parents would want to participate. So not knowing the numbers of participants, I don't have a sense of the additional resources and staff or support we would need for this. So if we were to do this program, I do have a consent form. Again, it's fully opt-in. If your name is not on the list, you're not participating, so we're not going to test any kid without their parents' consent. If 80 families, 80 parents are interested in, then I know, okay, I need to get an assistant in the morning. If 600, let's see, there's about 100 students at NSPS who are vaccinated. If 500 sign up for it, then we need to queue up some more people. Same thing with the middle school, grades 5 and 6, it applies to them. I did ask, it doesn't go beyond grade 6, right? So it's just PK to 6. If you think we should do this, I can put out the consent form to get an idea of how many would like to participate. And originally, I had wanted to start this sooner than later, but I'm thinking when we return from the holiday break, that's when we would dial this up.
Anyone have any questions?
I just have one question, just in the morning, so testing.
Sorry. So the testing would be in the morning primarily. Just wondering, would this be a situation where, let's say the numbers that we're looking at was a lot. I mean, I don't know what a lot is, but more than our nursing staff that we can handle right now. Would we have an option of like hiring, I don't want to start naming companies. I know, like private nurses to come in just for maybe, an hour or two in the morning, sort of something like that.
Yeah, and what we did use some state funds, and we did hire 2 certified nurse assistants at NSPS and at the middle school. You don't need to have a nurse or a certified nurse assistant to do the testing or some of the data collection. So one of the ideas, and again, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, I don't know if some of the our lunch aides who are there to work with the kids at lunch could come in the morning, for pay, out of ESSER. I know, Lisa. I know Lisa's wheels are going, and I apologize for not talking to her prior to putting this out there on YouTube. even just to take care of and be with the kids while they're waiting the 15 minutes for their result and so that they can go back to class. So yes, we can hire, we don't have to hire nurses. Now, some of the larger districts that are looking at this, they have a float nurse. They have a nurse who is not assigned to any building, who fills in where the need is. We don't have that luxury. So we have to be very creative in coming up with some sort of support for our nurses. And having said that, I'd like to have some support for them to pick up some of the slack on the evenings and the weekends as well, to give them a break. You know, when it comes to making all the phone calls for contact tracing, when it comes to doing some sort of data entry, you know, so there's two parts. We need to add some more support for our nurses. We need to add some more support if we enter into the test to stay. And we do have, through ESSER, access to some funding to help this happen. But until I know how many families, how many students are participating, I don't have a sense of the additional resources that we would need to bring on specifically for the test to stay portion.
Thank you.
Do you have the ability to sort of, sorry to say the word survey, but like you have like an email out to parents where you could sort of feel the temperature? If this is something that they would want to be able to do? I'm just trying to think about how we communicate it in a really smart way.
Sure, I could do, and again, yes, we could.
I just think if it's an opportunity to keep the kids in school,
That's the main thing.
then unless it's cost prohibitive, let's look into it
Right.
at least.
Yeah, we can, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we can work on the details. Obviously, work out the details later. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but just, I really like the superintendent's imaginative thinking, but I just think we keep the food personnel and the testing people separate. That's just, that's the best thing to do.
I think the first step in my mind would be to see how many people might be interested in something like this, and then we can go on from there.
Yeah, and I did include in your packet the letter I had for the families. I left the dates blank. It included all the information. I did create the survey form for consent, you know, so again, we could say that I don't know what threshold we would need to have it run, but you know, honestly, if only 50 parents signed up for it and we had the ability to keep 50 kids in school, I'd say we do it. You know, if we have many hundreds, then we'll have a little bit more logistics to work out of. But you know, I'm recommending going forward with this.
Are you looking for a vote, Mr. Chair? To support
Sure.
this? Okay, I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to authorize the superintendent to at least pursue the test to stay program along the lines he outlined to us and in his letter.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Superintendent, item number 4 has been withdrawn. Item number 6, I believe, will go to executive session, so we can just bypass it.
Yep.
All right, so then I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246, 5A1, job performance.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Seconded. Roll call, please.
Cheryl Lombardi,
Yes.
Mayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Vada,
Yes.
Mr. Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
All right, and for the folks on Zoom, I'm just going to pause the recording and turn off the sound and the video.
So I'll entertain a motion to reconvene in open session. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Cheryl Lombardi,
Yes.
Mayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Vada,
Yes.
Mr. Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to seal the record. Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. I would like to say for the record, no votes were taken in executive session. And item number 4, superintendent has been withdrawn. Eight, 4. Can you confirm that, superintendent?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it
Sorry.
has been withdrawn.
All right, so item number 4 is withdrawn. We'll go to item number 5. I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation on the resignation separation agreement as presented in executive session. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Let's roll call that. Please. Yes.
Mrs. Mayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Vada,
Yes.
Mr. Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Motion carries. Is any further business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion been made. Is there a second? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We're adjourned.